are live, and the New York Mets have had a full-blown fire sale. The teardown is complete, and the rebuild is on. Not to get dramatic, as most Mets fans do, but I would go ahead and say I don't think I've ever seen a fire sale of this magnitude, of this like speed, the short amount of time that this plan was in place, and it's all together at the same time depressing, exhilarating, embarrassing, but encouraging. Like, it is this whirlwind of emotions because on the one hand, we had World Series aspirations, and we're now not only selling at the break, but we are like a AAA team by the break. So yes, of course, we're going to hear Frank was right. We're going to hear Dave Portnoy laugh, and you're going to have the Mets haters, both in the fan base and out of the fan base, are just jerking off and loving this, right? But on the other hand, this is exactly what we've always wanted that we never had is leadership that like does not fuck around, no half measures, and is in this game to win it. And if you're not winning a World Series, you should be building towards one. And if you don't have the pieces and your window's not right now, then you're not a contender. And what do you got to do then? Plan for the future. And if you're going to sell a couple, you might as well sell all of them. And it's, I don't know what the remainder of the year, and I don't know what 24 looks like. But if you look at who's going to be on payroll, or more importantly, who's not going to be on payroll, because it's just Lindor and Nimmo and Diaz. If you look at that, plus some of these prospects we're getting back, plus some of the free agents to come in the next couple of years, it's the right time to do this. So Phil and Clem are here. Boys, I was just saying that this is all together at the same time. It's depressing, but it's exhilarating. I've never seen it before. It's terrible, but it's encouraging. It's everything all at once. A huge part of it obviously depends on the prospects panning out. Landing the number one prospect from a franchise like the Houston Astros is a big fucking deal. If you go get the White Sox number one prospect, who, the Mets number one prospect seems to never pan out. But for guys like the Astros, that means something. And if you're going to do it all the way. And
I don't think we've ever seen this type of accountability from the front office. Like, if people were calling for them to do just like a sacrificial firing, like, this is much more impactful than doing shit like that, because it's not going to change anything for our season. So, like, if the season's dead and you're ready to pull that trigger, they are doing so, like, eject on everybody. And we're not done yet, boys, because we still got 3 hours before this thing is closed out.
Well, now it's like, should we trade the door? I don't know. Like, at this point, everybody can go, because it's clearly we're planning way towards the future. I know that this is going to be, me and Paz were just talking before we came on, we're going to get clowned. People are going to make fun of us. People are going to relish the fact that the Mets.
They'd make fun of us if we kept them. They can make fun of us. They make fun of us either way. If we keep them or we trade them, just live with it.
And so that's the point: is A, who cares if they make fun of us, and B, this is like Dave. I was talking to him on the rundown. He was like, "Oh, what about like your boy Uncle Stevie? Where did all that come from?" I think this is Steve Cohen and everybody in action. I think these are the guys saying, "It's not working. You bum ass old motherfuckers didn't pan out." How many times have we said it in the last 10 weeks on the podcast? They tried this, I think, a very smart idea of no long-term commitment to guys who were in win now mode. It did not work for them. And now you flip it for prospects. And that's the one thing you basically, Steve Cohen basically bought a bunch of prospects, which is usually what you can't do. You got to build it through the draft and buy free agents. But by acquiring these old guys who then are coveted by win now teams, you swap them for some of their best prospects and pay the salaries, you're basically buying other teams' great prospects. And if there's one thing that we have to burn, it's money. And so
They just said that the other prospect they got was Ryan Clifford, another outfielder who's fourth on their list.
Dude, you get the Astros 1 and 4 and couple that along with Ronald Acuna's brother. And then, a couple of these other kids who are like fucking, 14 years old, who knows where they end up. And you got guys like Ohtani and Soto and some huge names coming up in free agency while you're very lean and the pieces that you do have signed are very good, I just, while of course I wish this worked out, I don't want to be here, but I almost am like, it's so unprecedented. It's like, I'm excited, like I'm almost blowing past the disappointment factor because we were going to be disappointed anyway. So whether we were disappointed slowly by bit and get killed with 1,000 paper cuts or rip it off, there's no worrying about do you cancel or not, is there hope or not? It's done, boys, and we're facing the future and we're getting younger and better. You can't ask for more from a front office other than we wish that, the guys you picked panned out. But if you make good moves, everyone was excited that they were going to work out. And then when they didn't, rather than pulling a Wilpons and just sitting on that money and being too egotistical to admit it, to just be like, we are turning around and doing this right, that is all you can ask for, man. And I feel like people always say you can't rebuild in New York. Fuck that. When you have unlimited pockets, a mostly smart fan base, at least like 50%, who get what's going on, and some of the names that are going to be available in the future, I think this is, I couldn't ask for more. If you're not winning, you're losing. So fucking start building.
I think it's clear that this front office isn't running on hope or like we're 6 games out of a wild card spot. Like, are we in it? Yes, but they saw it as we are not in it, and they took the direction and said, this year is done. Let's rebuild. And this is a rebuild. You can't say it's not.
Oh, yeah. I mean, at this point. Clem, what are you feeling?
It's just wipe the fucking slates clean. At this point, the positions, the players, I'm not going to act like I know who the fuck any of these guys are, but it just feels good. It's like we've made a decision and we're going for it. We're not going for it. We're going for like the rebuild. Like you said, David Stearns, come in, get whoever the fuck you want. I would have really, just for my mental well-being, just like to been like, there's the pitcher that we're going to build around, even if it's not a potential ace stud, just even like guy who might be floor as a 2. It just feels like we're just getting all these position guys, but like you can move these guys. You can.
There's a pitcher that's going to be available soon. Don't worry.
He also hits. I heard that guy. Or are we talking about the guy?
Oh wait, he can do both.
He can do both. Yeah,
what?
It's amazing. It's incredible shit. It's incredible.
Yo,
now selling him on that, selling him on this dream after we just like traded the last 2 pitchers we signed might be a little tougher.
No. Listen, I do not think this hurts reputationally at all. I think that there's a reason why these guys were able to be moved. I think it makes perfect sense. It's very bizarre to have acquired such legendary players for such a short period of time. But, they were on short-term contracts anyway. It's not like, we're giving up on a 7-year deal right away. It was always going to be a cup of coffee. You were always going to be a mercenary. We are not trading a fan favorite. We're not giving up on, every little kid's fucking favorite player who has his name on the back of his jersey. This guy was going to be unless they won a World Series somehow, he was going to be a fucking blip on the Mets radar anyway. And here's the thing. People talk about rebuilds and teardowns and fire sales all the time. It's very rarely a true teardown. It's usually we have toppled over and we're now selling a bunch of fucking pieces trying to clean up the rubble. A true teardown is like, here's this building that is standing and doing okay, but we need to make it a fucking skyscraper, so we're going to demolish it. And that's hard to do. That's, it's almost like, you want to break up with somebody. I'd rather break up with somebody a little too early than too late. You know what I mean? Where it's like it's ending your season, your television show on season 6 instead of squeezing out season 7. I know the fans are like, oh, we could have done one more season. I'd love 10 more episodes. But if those last 10 suck and you're not doing it right, I'd rather do it early. And that way, when I'm assuming that Pete will probably be on the trading block next. And these are all guys that it's going to hurt to lose, but that's why you'll get a good return for it. It's, everybody's a WFAN caller. How about we trade Travis Jankowski for Shohei Ohtani? And that's not how it works. But when you're giving up on, Verlander, who really turned it around and became the guy we wanted, when you're bailing on Max, and then eventually if you turn around and sell a guy like Pete, and you get a huge haul for him, it's gonna hurt. But I'd rather trade these guys when they're at their peak rather than, let it dwindle to the point that you're now retooling and what do they call it? They don't call it rebuild. Maybe it's retool. One of those fucking buzzwords. I'd rather do it for real. I'd rather do the real thing,
This is where the Yankees were when they moved Chapman and got like that haul for him on the year that they knew they weren't going to make it. They said, you go get your ring. We're going to try to build up the farm system. It didn't work out for them the same way they thought it was going to. But at the time we were like, this is incredible what he was able to do. And when you look at it, like Gilbert's a guy who played college ball. So he's older as it is. So he's already like developed enough where it's like him, it's Parada, who's still number one in our system. Then you have Luis Angel. Like they're doing moves now to set up Stearns for the future. They're getting all the money off the books. Verlander was due 2 more seasons after this. So it's like you're saying it's like ending a show in season 6. This is like ending a show after the pilot. You're like, he's only been here for like fucking 8 months, basically.
It's yes. I was using that more just as the analogy. It's obviously like there's not the long-term element to it.
But we've never seen anything like that. We've never dug in on a contract that's 3 years and we're like, no, you know what? This isn't going to work long-term. Let's see.
That's still the beauty of what I think Cohen brings is the ability to pivot. Like I would imagine you see this shit in finance too, in the stock market. You make a play and it doesn't work. And rather than have an ego and be like, fuck, I thought this was going to be a blue chip big whale and it's not. And it's like, I'm going to sell now because
it's a sunken cost. And
exactly,
he bets that big time.
I'm sure a lot of that was in his mind, especially if you're going to switch over to Stearns or somebody, right? If it's not him, I don't think Epler's going to be the long-term guy. So it's like, you don't have old regime players with the new regime GM, which, that's always a weird thing as well. I think it'll be a clear cut now, now, does this suck for Francisco Lindor? Does it suck for Nimmo and Diaz, who are, probably going to be here for the next 2 years, maybe more, where we're building? Yeah, but like, I don't know. You got to have some fucking major league players on your team. You can't be like totally like the Marlins. Also, they made this commitment. It didn't work out, but I do think there's a more potential for a quick turnaround with the Mets and their money and what they are doing. Mm-hmm. So I know people are gonna like relish this and clown. Like the thing to make fun of is just that we're not a good team this year, and we've been dealing with that anyway. This is not the thing to make fun of. This is the thing that honestly I think should be praised by anybody who's suffered through shitty teams. I mean, Clem, how often you can't compare baseball with the Caps and whatnot, but how often would you have loved the Knicks to do this rather than, try to sign an aging, guy who can sell tickets and let's make the 8 seed and it's not like so often I wish they would tear it down and rebuild it in all my other sports. So you got to give them credit here for doing the same.
I think it was the Marcus Morris trade was the first time I was like, holy shit, someone with the brain is actually running the Knicks other than Donnie Walsh. And then I believe the pick they got for that ended up being Emmanuel Quickly down the road. And it's like, see what happens when you build a team the right fucking way instead of just being in purgatory. And that's kind of where the Mets were going to be if they kept Verlander. It's like, hey, listen, the rest of the season, probably just a washout. And then next season, everything can go, better. And then maybe we, make the playoffs or make a push. But then if Verlander gets hurt or he kind of like has like the Scherzer year 2 where he, isn't what he was even this year or the last 7 starts, then you're just like, where the fuck are we going? Well, we know where we're going. We're going to fucking clear the decks. Uncle Stevie's money might get us a couple more, improve the prospects coming back. And like we were talking about last episode, look at the free agent list, couple of pitchers there, including obviously Ohtani, our boy Yoshi Yamamoto, who is basically a Met and my favorite player in my eyes right now. And
dude, me and Clem, we're already kicking around the idea of this 3-headed Japanese trio. We're gonna, everybody loves to make fun of the dragons thing. If we have our 3 dragons in Ohtani, Yoshi, and Senga. Oh my God! Let's just become a Japanese baseball team with those guys.
Send the C&D letter right now, HBO, because I will be putting the Targaryen fucking logo in orange and blue, and that will be right in the middle of our shirt. And we'll say these shirts are on sale for 1 hour. I am now, and they'll be fire for fucking no pun intended.
If they get Yamamoto, then they got to go get Shinjo as the manager.
Oh, bring him in. Maybe Shinjo can be our Pobo. Pobo Shinjo. Let's do it.
We have become everything we hated to because we are talking about the free agents just like Yankees fans did all those years, except we don't have any World Series to show for it.
Okay, does it not feel – it's always a possibility with Steve Cohen, and we know that. But does it not feel like, you're gearing up for a run at one of those guys? Like, what else – why else would you be, like, scrapping it all right now and pointing towards the first few years of those guys, next contract? Like, it just – again, Shohei's probably going to stay on the West Coast, and who knows if he's driven by money. I don't know these things, but I do know they're going to get fucking serious offers, and it just feels like if you're going to start to think about 25 and 26 and beyond, and that's going to be those guys' primes, it's like it to me it would be very like going to the Mets in the past is like nobody wanted to do that, and we still have some we got to shake off some demons here and shake off some of this curse before people really make it a destination. But if you're thinking about those guys and they can be like, I'll have Diaz, Nimmo, and Lindor in like their prime / back end years. Those will be like the veterans of the team while I come into my own, pair it with Ronald Acuna's brother and a couple guys from the Astros. That feels pretty appealing to me, where it's like you're gonna have solid veterans. It looks like they're doing all they can to at least acquire the right prospects. And then if you, whether it's Ohtani or Soto or whoever, are going to be like the guy to build around, and that Steve Cohen's going to just give you like the best fucking facilities and best stadium and best perks and all that shit, it's a long way to go to make people be like, I'm on the fucking Mets and I'm so happy about it. But all of this feels like you're making it right. You're doing all you can for those guys who are really the crown jewels.
So outside of, say, Ohtani, I can't see them offering anyone else more than like a year or two deal this offseason. I think you're going to see lots of like short-term deals. It's going to be like the mid-tier guys that you probably don't want to know. I don't see a Nola in our future. I don't see Julio Urias or Blake Snell. If David Stearns takes over, you're going to see lots of like, I want to say like projects that could be 4 stars on 1 year deals. Then if you suck next year, do you just trade them for more prospects?
I also think what's the harm in trying for some of those guys to do these short-term high annual contracts again? Like, why not run this same thing back with a guy who, let's say there's a guy who the market is not, panning out. Boris overplayed his hand. They thought he was going to get $250 million. The highest offer is like 100. Well, how about you just come to us for, fucking 100 over 2, and you prove yourself and really get that contract. Yeah. And if not, we trade you, pay your contract, and get more prospects. If you can do this short-term deal thing, I mean, it almost becomes a asset in its own right because you can trade these guys at the deadline.
We've been trying to win for over a decade, and we've sucked. So like, if they're going to go in and we suck, it's like nothing's really changing other than you're building an actual foundation to no longer suck in the future. Like, I don't think it's a punt on 2024 by any means because, again, we have enough money where we can scramble around. Yeah. We had less than 50% of quality starts this year from our starters, and that's with, like, the big-name guys. Look at the Orioles. Look at the Florida Marlins. Like, anybody out there can have a good year, us included last year, where we have enough from an offensive standpoint where you can go find some journeyman guy who's going to fill in some innings for you. Like, I'm not calling Chris Bassett a journeyman guy, but we didn't have a single guy who was like the dog that was going to get a ton of innings this year, and it fucked us. So you have Senga. There's a lot of promise there. Maybe they keep Quintana, but if not, I'm sure they're going to get a nice.
I'd trade. There's 3 hours left. I'd trade Quintana for just about anything right now.
Like a lot at this point.
Looking for.
I mean, I will say I do think this is a punt on 24. I think your point that we can match. You can go get this level of pitching with like 5 fucking AAA guys. Right. You know what I mean? Minus what Verlander was starting to do. Like, so it's not like you'll still have some offensive players, assuming that we don't, trade like everybody. But you can probably recreate this season just without the big names. Right. Now, do I think that's an honest effort to try to go win a World Series? No. So I think in that sense, it's punting. But it's like, after you realize that 2022 was the aberration for whatever reason, whether it's injuries, whether it's just mojo and chemistry, whatever, once you realize that was the outlier, I'd rather be building than holding on to. It's what we've seen, man. It's what we've seen in the past. When it happened in with the 2006 and 7 team, where it was like we were not really ready to go win a World Series, and we thought we were. And rather than truly building, we just would go all in on the same team, and it just for 3 straight years didn't work. And then all of a sudden you fucked yourself long term while the Phillies are out there winning, the division for a decade straight. So I'm okay with it being a punt, and it's just with everything with purpose. No half measures, everything with purpose. Everything is going in the same direction. The Mets would do things like, they would, in the past, it feels like they would sell over here and then go buy over there. And it was like, what the fuck is that about? At least this is all in the same direction. I think it's going to scare some people, and just it's jarring to go like this much. I mean, Clem, can you think of a time that like any of our teams, or really like any teams at all, I feel like the Nets were kind of fucking around doing that when they were, and it's the Celtics when they were trading all their players and picks and shit. But like, it just doesn't really happen with that caliber of names and all that in one season and one trade deadline. It seems, I guess the Cubs kind of did it right a little bit when they traded Baez and Rizzo and Bryant and but that was after the work was done. I just don't think there's anything comparable, is there?
Not really for us. Again, we kind of just sit in purgatory and just watch our teams just be average and then have no returns, or you get like the comp pick back and it does absolutely nothing for you. So, we all freaked out. We freaked out. I freaked out about Scott Kazmir years ago. We all freaked out about Jared Kelenic. Like, this is the time to enjoy everyone hugged their prospects. And listen, Kev, I actually made these guys don't know. Kev
this is great. This is so great.
KFC was hardcore in Kunsalina. Every time we were bringing up different prospects, Kevin would be like, these guys better pan out, or else what's the point of selling? And I called them up. I did a call to the bullpen. You guys don't even know. I called them and I go, yo, you have to get the fuck out of Kunsalina right now. If you can't believe that your prospects are going to be good on deadline day, stop following baseball. You have to just believe right
now. Let me, here's exactly what happened. I was more saying, I don't think that what we've gotten back, minus, I'm excited for Acuna's brother. Everything else I feel like has been like meh, or way too young and way too much of a prospect of a project. So I was just saying, if this was prior to Verlander, I said, if they do, that's gotta be for some real deal blue chip guys. Otherwise, you're looking at, we traded everybody of value. All of them. And if you don't have anything that's impressive to show for it, what the fuck are we doing? So I was trying to say that. And in the same process, I also said, fellas, we are just, if Verlander goes, we are just canceling the podcast for 2020.
Canceled himself.
Canceled himself. He just canceled himself. A live consult.
His feed is still up. There we go. What? Something's going on. Could not have timed that.
All right. Breaking news. KFC just got traded. We just traded him to the Astros blog here. Kyle, you were saying something before?
Oh, I was saying it could have been one of those years where we were close enough to the wild card. The year that we picked up Stroman, and everybody in the fan base is like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, this team isn't any good. We're not going anywhere. Why are you adding pieces while also getting rid of pieces? Like, I don't think I've ever lived through a teardown like that. And yeah, to his point, I was nervous when we moved Robertson so early and got those 2 young guys. They could pan out, but it's not something we're going to see anytime soon.
Those guys are too far down the line.
Yeah, and where a lot of people don't realize, though, is like, you're just building equity at that point. You don't know. They don't know if they're going to pan out either. but it's the prospect of those guys could be good, and we can just trade those before we ever see them anyway. Because money only goes so far. If we have young prospects who 2 years from now we still have those guys in the system and can move them, like that's also what they're looking for. So if they
before we go on, let me just explain this because I got cut off in the middle of it. You guys can hear me now? Everything's good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
The phone call I got from Clem, it was my sponsor calling. It was also my father calling. Like he called me up and he was like, would you cut it out? Like he hit me with like would you knock it off like a dad does when he's mad at his son? I was like, yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Clem. Yes, I will stop. I thought it was gonna be, do you have time to do a podcast or like, hey man, this sucks. He was like, no fucking around, man. He was all business Clem, just being like, I don't want to hear it anymore. This is your sponsor calling you. Like I was, trying to get my fix. It was like getting caught like a drug addict with a needle in the arm. And Clem's like, what are you doing? I told you to clean up your act. It was a stern talking to. I will say that.
You were in Wilponian mode at that point, which, I mean, we all have our scars, and that's the reason, like, the sponsors were here for the good times and the bad, and, like, you were slipping just on your own because it's like you're just thinking, well, we just got rid of these guys, so this season's done. I'm now reading that, people are saying that they told Verlander maybe 25 is done, which Nightingale, who gives a fuck? Did you see Nightingale said the wrong fucking prospect, by the way?
Oh, we got Logan Gilbert, guys, the Mariners ace.
I mean, you knew he'd get something wrong. One thing wrong always.
He proved the initial trade.
I think he was the first to tweet it. Yeah, so I mean, hey, let's let Bob have one. He's like over 1 million. Can we let him have this one?
Oh, just the best, dude. But like I said, we're all in this together. We have to row the same way. At this point, like we have to get excited about prospects and a bunch of guys who we've never heard of or seen. So it's like we kind of have to just be on the same page. And again, if you can't get excited on deadline day, it's like, what's the point? Like, I talked myself into Javi Baez once upon a time, knowing how goddamn bad he was.
He was worth it.
He was worth it. He was good. He was, again, he had like the better numbers than Cespedes if you look at the advanced stats, all that kind of shit. But like, imagine if we signed that guy here, and we imagine if we had signed Correa here, and like those guys have no value. We got a couple guys short term, and Meek, like you said, I would be kind of interested if they're like, hey, Aaron Nola, you could get like your 8-year whatever contract, or we get 1 year for a shit ton of money. And at some point, we're gonna have to put like no trade clauses in there because they're gonna be like, yeah, you're just gonna move us for another prospect come August 1st again.
I mean, honestly, it's obviously not like he's not doing this on purpose, but it is kind of like this loophole to buy prospects where you can be like, I can't just like purchase them off of you, but like I'm going to sign this guy and you're going to be desperate and I'm going to get your top dudes. And rather than, have to worry about drafting them, I'm just going to buy them from you in exchange for this old guy too.
Compared to the old days where Jeff Wilpons wanted his son's like roommate or something in a trade.
Honestly, you know what? That's such a good point. Like I think we made that like a 14 seed in the Mets misery draft. Our owner intentionally getting bad players because his son was like a roommate or whatever. I mean, that was egregious. That was like criminal. That was one of the worst things he's ever done, low key. So to compare that to this, where you're not afraid to move, I know Max and it sounded like Verlander were kind of like, I guess, taken off guard, and it sounded like some of the comments were mad.
I don't understand why these guys were caught off guard. They're the ones that were awful for 4 months.
They're the reason why, that we're in this position, So I don't get how, they personally can be mad, but I can't imagine that this, as far as reputation goes, this shows to me that nobody is above winning. Nobody's too important. The team comes first. You got to earn your money. We're not afraid to make moves. That to me is motivation, incentive. I think that's all good. I'm sure people are going to think that this is like a spin zone or something, but we love our infrastructure, right, Clem? The Mets, part of your Mets blood is you got to have hope, and you're always looking to the future. I mean, my prime of Mets blog years was refreshing Mets blog to see what the next big Omar Minaya signing or trade was going to be. was more fun than I've ever had watching an actual baseball team play. And so if we're going to be one of those teams where the hot stove and the deadline and free agency are always like, you know, at any given moment, something like this can happen, I'm actually genuinely excited about it. Short of winning and having a product on the field that wins a World Series, this is, to me, the most fun part of baseball is like trying to build the right team and make the puzzle fit. And doing it in an extreme way like this is like, holy shit, man.
And we're selling. And on the flip side, the San Diego Padres are in the same exact spot as us in the standings pretty much. Trade for Rich Hill and G-Man Choi is going for it. So
well, because that, to me, I have to imagine the Mexican cartel had like a 5-year deal with them. And they're like, at the end of 5 years, we'll give you $1 billion over 5. And at the end of that, if, you know, we don't have a return on our investment, we're chopping all your heads off and we're done with you. So the GM of the Padres probably like literally has to worry about getting, you know, whacked by the cartel. So he can't sell. But
and also, the more of a shit show out there, the better it is for us when Juan Soto comes due, because he's going to want to get out of there. He's not playing up to his standards anyway.
God
Something
willing.
tells me he's ready to come back to the East Coast.
Oh,
and that's what you're selling Shohei on. You want to say, hey, Shohei, you know, we have all this money for 2025. We can get Soto for you. We can get Yoshi Yamamoto. And
so I think the one last big piece is Pete, right? And I feel like a lot of people are,
that's gonna be the one that's may turn people off.
Yeah, I
don't
mean,
think it's happening.
Here's the thing: Pete is the guy from this era. You know, like it was Wright and Reyes, more so Wright than Reyes, but like every crop of guys that comes up, there's like the one, and Pete Alonso was the one. You had Jeff along with him, but like, and Alvarez, I think will kind of eclipse him, but like he was the guy for this little mini regime. But at the same time, I don't know what it is, because I mean, the home run has become to, you know, dominate the whole sport, and he hits more home runs than anybody, you know, since coming into the league, right? He has like the most home runs. Ohtani, I'm sure, will take that crown, but he just mashes home runs. And so I don't know why that's something people kind of overlook, but they do. A lot of people are kind of like, oh, I wouldn't pay him max money. Look around the league. There's other corner guys that you can pay. I'm like, I don't know. He's a guaranteed like 40 fucking bombs a year. That's hard to come by, man. Like, that's not something to just turn your nose up at and sell along with everybody else. But if we're going to do this tear down, like I said, it's got to hurt a little bit. So if you get like a lot in return for him, it makes sense. But
the only scenario where I see them coming close to moving him is that he's looking for like $200+ million extension,
and he's got
like, immediately. He's had a down year in terms of like his stats, home runs aside. I think we can get him on more of like a sweetheart deal. I don't think we're getting like it's going to be more than Nimmo, but for 40 home runs and as many RBIs as he puts up, I think that's worth it. That's like a known entity. Where
that's what I mean.
Him in, where people saying he's like Chris Davis. I'm like, what are we talking about here? Like the two couldn't be further apart.
No, but I think he's Adam Dunn. I think that's the better comparison, right? I feel like when people have thrown out Chris Davis, we've always kind of said like, what if he's an Adam Dunn?
Out like fucking 300 times a year too, which is like,
I don't know. I mean, part of me, like I said, values those home runs. So like, we keep that guy along for the ride. I just think that in Pete's head, he feels like he is, you know, one of the fucking top tier guys. And I think he's going to demand all of that money. I cannot see any sort of like, you know, I'm a Met, so I'll give you guys a hometown discount. I think he thinks he's like a top dog. And I mean, he's not that, right?
It's hard for anyone in this court. It's hard for anyone in this court to be like, I'm a top dog, where you have 19, you fell off, 20, it was a fucking nightmare. You couldn't make the playoffs when more than half the teams made the playoffs. Last year, or 21, disappointing in the end. 22, you fucking are awesome, and then you completely choked the last week of the season. And then this season was like a fucking nightmare, right? It's like completely underperformed. At some point, it's like, there's only been a few guys who have been here for all this. And at some point you have to start picking and choosing. And I love Pete. I also, like, admittedly, it's like I don't know if it's a WFA and caller thing, but like when like one of his teammates, only one of his teammates is at his comedy thing. And it's like, at some point it's like, and you hear all these things about how like guys just don't like him. It seems like everyone on the team likes him, but you hear enough shit where you're like, is there something missing with Pete? Is he just the big dumb ox that hits home runs? Now you could have that guy. It's awesome to have that guy, but you also want that to be one of your top 3 paid guys. And the guy
that's the problem. He can't be eating up huge money, and he can't be like, this is my team, because everyone's like, shut up, you goofball. But if he were to just be like, my name's Pete, I bat 210, but I hit like 50 a year, and I do it for like 20 million a year. All good.
That's where Lindor's contract comes in, though, because he's not topping that, and Lindor's here for like 10 more years still. So
yeah, I mean, I guess as I say all this, though, I'm always talking about like the deep pockets, and it's like, do we really care what Pete gets? If it, as always, if it starts to impinge and impede like what other money gets spent, I don't want to do that. But when it doesn't seem like there's a real worry about that, I don't know. Do I care if Pete gets 180 or 250?
No.
Fucking who cares,
And outside of, say, Lindor and Nemo, just because they're the only ones on long-term deals, pretty much anyone on this team as of right now is up for grabs. Like,
dude,
the core of the Mets that we know is just not going to be there next year, and it's going to be a transition.
Don't you think it'd be nice to have, like, you got Alvarez, Lindor, Nemo, and let's just say Luis Angel Acuna is ready to play. You throw him in second, you have Pete at first, and you kind of have like a chunk in a time that's going to be wildly uncertain for this franchise. You do have I'd be happy with all those guys being set if they did keep them.
A couple little things here, just going through Twitter. Hubs, who's no fan of the Mets, obviously he's a Yankees fan, and his response to hearing Gilbert to the Mets was, saving grace is that dude is out of the Astros system. So I always like when like other fans are like, oh, that dude was a fucking. And then this guy who's like one of the head writers for Baseball Prospectus, Jeffrey Paternostro, he said that's probably about as good a return as you get from Houston without getting guys off the MLB roster. Mets have added 4 likely top 101 guys so far, and the Mets get the only dude that might be able to scream fuck louder than Jeff McNeil. So that's kind of nice. Like, we used to have Familia yelling fuck on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball when he was mic'd up and stuff like that. I like having a guy that doesn't need a mic. You could just hear him yell fuck. A little passion.
It obviously depends on everybody panning out where they end up. But of course, that's always the case, is like, we always have to wait and see what happens. But that's not what giving takes and predictions are all about. I would say that, like, if you got the 1 and the 4 prospect from the Astros, was Acuna, he was one of the top Rangers guys, or no?
He, in Baseball America, he would have been like the 44th in all of baseball. So but these 2 guys from the Astros were like 1 and 4 in their system, but what were they in the top 100? Gilbert would have been like around like top 50-ish in midseason update, I think. So.
All right.
So he actually drafted 2 players above him last season. He was drafted 28th overall. We had 2 picks before 28. So we evaluated 2 other players as being better than him long-term. But Jet is a high school player, so they always go higher anyway. Yeah,
he got promoted to high level A. I saw people getting excited about that. Yeah. It's like, well, Keegan is also in rookie ball, so we can get pumped up for him and AJ to maybe make the team the same time Jet does. But so you're looking like, it's not like we got any top 10 in all of baseball prospects. Nothing like the best one is probably middle of the road in the top 100.
Yeah. I will never subscribe to that shit anyway, because all I do is think about how Ahmed Rosario was number 1 in baseball for 2 straight seasons. And meanwhile, Jeff McNeil is like on our team as like a super utility player who just signed a long-term contract. Yeah. Like, that shit never really pans out the way you think it will. Very rarely is it like
unless it's
top guy.
Unless it's Francisco Alvarez, in which case it all makes sense and it's all perfect.
Which also, that's like the caveat for Pete too. If we have 2 players that can hit 40 home runs a year, most teams don't get that. So that's the only other thing where I'm like, if you have 2 power bats like that, and then you have some guys that could just hit to the gaps, like, that's a huge difference maker moving forward.
And I was reading here, this Clifford guy sounds like he projects to become a first baseman. So again, I don't think they're making moves being like we're moving Pete, but there are like other things at work there that, you can slot him around. And we have like 17 outfielders potentially when this is all.
Yeah.
And like 6 catchers.
Yeah. Which, speaking of which, Narvaez cannot be on this team by the end of today.
No.
Raleigh, you can even sell me on if you want to. Is he have a 2-year deal?
No, they got trade Raleigh. He's a 35-year-old reliever with a player option next year. Find a dumb team to overpay.
Yeah.
This is when
We find the next loop.
Those
he was
guys,
this year's loop. We find next year's loop in free agency or whatever.
Yeah.
Just keep getting those guys and moving those guys if you're not in it, because they'll at least net you a single A guy or something who at least has some upside. Who knows? The thing with Pete, first base is so interesting. I remember early, I think in the offseason, I was talking to Meek about it, and he was running through all the numbers, and it's like he's just, you said like first basemen just don't have that same value, and I think it's like
I keep getting waters from people. I don't know why. I've gotten like 5 waters from people that keep walking in.
Is this some sort of like
I don't know what the joke is, but they keep giving me waters.
I think Goldschmidt and Freddie Freeman are both on like pretty
decent contracts, and Paul Goldschmidt, the Cardinals got for free essentially because all the guys they got.
But why is that? Like, it's not like there's a total surplus of first basemen. There's a bunch of good ones, but it's not like you can. I just feel like people say like, oh, he's a corner infielder. You can get those. You can get first baseman. So why overpay? It's like I don't care really where he plays. If you're gonna give me like almost, if you can hit like 50, you can hit almost 50 home runs if you're healthy. That to me is like I don't care what position it is. So these other guys, I mean, I would love for them. I would love to say, you think you're gonna make more than Paul Goldschmidt? Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
and if you get him on a similar deal to that, you get him on a Freddie Freeman deal, like golden. But also, I can understand him being like, I want, 275 because I'm going to hit 50 home runs a year.
Mm-hmm. I mean, just the way baseball is, like corner infielders really just don't go for that much.
Olsen got 168.
Yeah.
What is it?
168 for 8.
That's like that's robbery. And then, wait, that's Goldschmidt or Freddie?
No, that's Matt Olsen to the bridge.
Olsen.
Who leads the league in home runs this year?
Correct.
Motherfucker.
That to me, I think it's almost like gone a little overboard the other direction where I know it's not a, premier defensive position and all that, but in a world where people are just sucking the dick of the home run, it's the biggest, most effective thing in all of sports. A guy who hits the most of them, it's an interesting thing to just be like, yeah, get rid of him too.
Don't need that. I mean, we all are ready for like, well, Dom has the glove and the way he hit in 2020. Let's God.
Boldest take ever.
Guy who most certainly does not hit home runs. You don't have to worry about that.
Honestly, looking back now, if this front office is in place in 2020, maybe we get a haul for Dom Smith for something. I don't know.
Yeah, we actually sell when we're supposed to sell. So, I'll give them credit for that. Like, and again, so Narvaez, Pham, Raley all have to be off the team.
Pham's gotta go. Like,
Pham's 100%.
I'm rooting for him to go. I don't even care what the return is. Like, get off this team.
I'm kind of going to root for wherever he goes.
Wherever he goes is, with the
Pham.
He's like a restricted free agent in my mind. There's a few teams on the list that I won't root for. Otherwise, the Pham travels, baby. We're gonna go to fucking Baltimore, Seattle. I don't give a shit where it is. Let's go.
I might as well ask this. We're essentially all of us. Our season's over. We're rooting for the Astros to win a boring World Series again, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That.
Just let the Astros be a dynasty and we don't care about it.
Yeah, because I usually rooting for like the underdog is usually fun, but not when like you kind of just got left in the dust.
I don't like seeing people win before I do, so I'd rather the Astros be a dynasty.
Like, I don't want to see the fucking Mariners, It's like,
no ill will towards Verlander either. Like,
yeah,
he just got his top AAV, and he got to go back to the team that he loved playing on last year, wash his hands clean, and now he gets to split his salary between 2 teams.
Bro, the dream.
That's a good agent. Yep.
Ironically, this may help them with players later on because you let a player go to exactly where he wanted to go, and you didn't really hassle him for it.
Yeah.
Same thing with Max. Probably wanted to have Texas as main destination.
I as the dust settled on Max, I feel like I kind of was like his comments to me were at first he was like we got to have a conversation, but then he kind of owned it. I feel like people are acting like he didn't own the fact that he sucked, but I feel like he kind of did. I don't think I just don't think it'll be an issue as far as like, signing and not signing and like, oh, well, do you remember what happened with Verlander and Max? Like, it's just such a unique circumstance with two extremely unique players. I think it all just makes sense to me.
Someone said Knicks Tape 99, Astros dead ass just financed re-signing Verlander through Steve Cohen. Like, and granted, they're the World Series champions, but if the Mets, who say are not the World Series champion, not hard to imagine, like didn't sign a free agent on their team, let him go somewhere else, and then traded two of the best prospects to get him back. And these franchises are in completely different places. I understand that, but we would just be getting clowned for that. And
totally. Yeah. I didn't think of it. Yeah, from that route like that.
And look, we're paying most of the contract too.
Yeah, right. But it's like, that just goes to show me it's like the one we always say the one asset we have the most of is money. So it's like, okay, yeah, we'll pay some of his contract. Don't give.
It is going to hamstring us for next season because that still counts for our cap.
But we're not like I think we are punting for next year. So it's like
I think next year we might have to do a Tuesday show for the major league team and a Thursday show for AAA or whatever's in the minor.
Down on the farm. We're coming for your ass, man.
One show is just scroll through Mike Mayer's Twitter feed of just all the prospects.
Mike Mayer.
How's Marcus doing in rookie ball?
Yeah.
We'll have Mike Mayer and Joe DeMeo on, and we are live, and the Syracuse Mets are
the Binghamton Rumble Ponies have won yet again.
I'm totally okay with we could have a fat salary next year, pay a penalty, and it's another year where we have the other teams' top prospects developing in our, taking the Rangers' top guys, the Astros' top guys, and even the Rangers who are kind of starting to prove that they kind of know what they're doing. Sounds good, man. I mean, we're at the bottom of that list of percentage of draft picks that make it to the major leagues. I think it's 9%. It was like 30 out of 330 draft picks made it to the bigs. So, even if we steal a couple guys that make it to the major leagues, when you've only had 30 over the last 300 picks, let's say Acuna and one of these Astros kids makes it. That's if you get two new ones that make it to the bigs for the Mets, that's a huge step forward, let alone if there's 3 and potentially 4.
This could actually be by design. Like, it could be like we are shit at evaluating talent. Like, let's just wait for the draft. And then the following year, we're just going to pay for those guys that you guys just drafted.
That's really, it's like paying, you let the good teams draft them. You get to, you pay a premium for getting to watch a year or two of them play minor league ball and know whether or not, what is the water? What does it mean? I don't get it.
It's milk.
Oh.
I don't know what's going on.
If the yak was on right now, I would assume.
I was just on the yak talking about my trip.
Did you say, what did you say on there?
I just was like, I had a fun time watching UFC, not really caring about baseball too much, and
nothing about hydration or drinking.
Nothing at all about that. I said I never got high before, so that may be something.
Are they going through your Twitter likes, Phil?
No,
he's thirsty.
He is a thirsty boy.
That just says you're good or no. Shout out, Cody.
Did you like something extra kinky recently?
No, not that I don't think of.
Phil, be honest, we're among friends.
No, nothing that crazy.
Because I just get some random posts popping up on my timeline because you like them. I'm like, where the hell is this coming from?
Nothing.
Phil's trying to mute everyone else instead of himself right now.
This is just Meek Phil is thirsty, so we brought him gallons of water. That's pretty goddamn funny.
That's good.
Whatever it is.
So in summation, I guess go around here. I'm oddly, I'm happy. I'm like the pain of this year. I already knew that this wasn't going to work. I never thought to myself, oh, we'll bounce back in 24 and it'll be just like 22. I think we knew that we were never going to be able to replicate the 2022 success with this regime, at least. So fuck it. If you're not, don't be in no man's land. If you're not winning, you're losing. I'm all good. Do any of you wish we kept Verlander?
No. The only thing I wish is that we were so good, we'd have everyone on our team and we were competing for.
But that's what I mean. Like that ship
yeah.
already sailed. So once that's gone, part of me is like, I'm not gonna want to watch like a single game next year because they're gonna have to sign like somebody because you can't be a New York franchise and have like genuinely no pitchers except for like Senga. So I don't know what that means. I said on the chat before, I was like, I can't tell whether selling everybody else was meaning you have to also sell Verlander, or maybe it means you got to keep him because you need him for the next year and a half to be some semblance of a major league pitcher. But they obviously don't care about that. So like that rotation, man.
So.
What's it gonna be? It's gonna like who?
I'm waiting for there to be a graphic of like our rotation depth chart where it's like, okay, cool, Senga 1, then Cookie Carrasco 2, Joey Lucchesi 3.
Oh God.
Oh my
Peterson,
God.
McGill, but
Peterson and McGill are gonna be like the aces of the squad.
Hey, they were. Peterson was an ace last year.
Now I'm sad.
Well,
That's all you had to say.
This is what I mean. Like, there's a lot of teams out there that not really the contenders so much, but there are, ball clubs that compete that have like one ace and nobody else, and that could have been Verlander, and that would have been a regular. That happens. You have your one ace and the rest are shit. Plenty of teams have done that before. We could have, but I'd just rather have 2 Astros prospects than 30 meaningless starts from Verlander while we lose, 95 games.
I'll take the consolation prize of this season's been a disaster and we overpaid for like complete mediocrity. So they're hedging their bets, which is more than fine. Because if he's coming back next year, we're going to suck anyway. Go get whoever you can get. Go get everybody you can, So would you rather have this deadline, or let's go back to June? Would you rather have won like 7 of those games we lost where we scored 6 runs?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, because that's right. That would have like kept you in it. It is funny.
If you win all those, you're in a wild card spot.
Bro, I know there's a lot of teams, but 6 games is like by no means an insurmountable amount. Like if they just have a stupid John Sterling, that's baseball Susan week, and they win a bunch of games, and it gets cut to like 3.5, people are going to be like, what's going on here?
It's going to happen.
This is clearly the right move.
No, we may end up winning 2 out of 3 in Kansas City. Then we face the Orioles, we get swept, and we'll probably lose 90 games. Not like it matters. So
yeah, I can't even begin to care about records and whatnot. But it will be weird next year because as much as I've always watched this team within the last couple of years, because of the podcast taking off, because of social media becoming what it is, because of Steve Cohen, it just felt like it was so heightened that like I can't imagine a totally punted year. Like it's gonna be like we might lose 100 this year, boys. That's gonna be tough to swallow in this era.
I will say it's gonna feel good to turn on a game later and just not care, have it as background noise. And whatever happens, happens.
Just watch some ball. Like I just want to hear the crack of the bat.
Just hope they have fun out there.
All that shit. Watch some web gems and not really care about the outcome. But man, I was living and dying with this team, 18 months ago, and now it's like I'll see you in 18 months. That's pretty crazy.
It's gonna be funny if we see the lineup. It's like, Daniel Vogelback moved to second in the order.
Yeah.
That's tomorrow. Okay, so number 1, Narvaez can't be on the team. Rayleigh cannot be on the team. Pham cannot be on the team at 6:01 p.m. Full stop. Number 2, Daniel Vogelback cannot be on the team. Cookie Carrasco cannot be on the team. As of tomorrow, did you see that tweet? There's a bunch of minor leagers in like a hotel in Kansas City.
Waiting.
Right now.
And Mauricio's not one of them.
Yeah, Mauricio's not one of them. So they're just looking to bring a bunch of guys in. So I'll just give me the minor leaguers. I am done seeing the guys that helped torpedo this season get wheeled out every time.
All right, let me ask you guys now.
What?
Straight unseen. Do they have a better record at the end of this year than we did in 2021? Don't look it up. Yes or no?
2021, I want to go 76 wins or 74. I'm going to go with no.
They had 77 wins, 85 losses.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, no chance.
I still have some hope that we can get somewhere near that. I don't think we're going to end up at 90.
Yeah. I think it's going to be 70 and 92. We're 50 and 55.
It is crazy that, like, a 500 season is, now that we traded everyone, like, it could be harder, but the fact that a 500 season's on the table in a year where everyone was like, blow it up, this is terrible. I do think having no pitchers is when we had pitchers, we were terrible. I think having no pitchers, we might see some prolonged losing streaks to wrap up the next couple months here.
And if you're one of those people that were screaming sell, sell, sell and doing that stupid gif of it, like, you can't sit here and complain that they sold. Like,
no,
they did what you wanted to, buddy.
Yeah, like if you subject yourself to these games and watch them, don't fucking boo, don't complain, don't harass people on social media. This is now a bad baseball team that is bad with intent, not out of like lack of hustle or anything like that. So shut the fuck up.
This is our current, now that these trades have gone through, as of now, the current leader on the New York Mets in wins. Kodai Senga, 7 wins. Number 2 in wins now, Tyler McGill with 6 wins. That was a little bit of a surprise. Number 3 in wins, Drew Smith, who's pitched 35 innings this year, followed by David Robertson. Oh, no, excuse me. He's not on the team anymore. Carlos Carrasco, Grant Hartwig, David Peterson, Jimmy Yacobonis, Dominic Leone, Joey Lucchesi, Dennis Santana. That wraps up everyone that has accumulated a win for the New York Mets right now.
Bro,
so where are we getting these wins from? It's going to have to be fucking the offense.
Two of the top 5 are relievers. That's crazy. and 3/4 of the way through the year. It's not like an early going where things are like wonky stats. 2 of your top wins are relievers. Yikes. It is going to be ugly, my friends. Ugly, ugly, ugly.
There's only 57 more games left, so
I'll tell you what's going to be ugly. This goddamn podcast. I mean, how many grids can let's fire up the Daily Dozen trivia?
Yep.
Holy shit.
We got the football grid. We got the baseball grid. We'll throw the fucking hockey one just to get 3 guys maybe if we're lucky. And we dozen it up.
I'll tell you who's the big losers here. Jets fans. Because this feels like one of those things where everyone who's a Mets and Jets fan, it's like, the Jets, like the Mets, totally blew it. Like, guess what usually comes around then too is Mets
canceling the Jets before the season starts.
Well, no, but I'm just saying a Mets bad season, a Mets like craziness like this that a lot of people are calling embarrassing. Can't you see the script being like, and then also Aaron Rodgers got hurt or sucked or the team's underperforming? Because that's just how it goes for these fan bases. So that has me more nervous about the Jets than anything Mets related, is that the storyline might just carry over into the NFL season. Oh God. Because that's just how it goes. It'll be like, you thought you were really upset? Well, let me tell you this much. Like, now both your teams fucking blow.
And Frank will find a way to blame Steve Cohen for the Jets being bad in his own division.
The numbers just came out for the Verlander move.
How much we paying?
$54 million we're paying.
That's
54
if he gets vested in. 54. If he does the last option, it's 93 million total, and they're gonna pick up like 20 whatever. But just the fact that he can write that off like it's nothing.
Crazy.
$54 million.
Yeah.
I mean, we're paying for prospects. What it is.
Paying a lot.
Like, all right, we don't want to get this guy and worry about slot and have to worry about who we're going to draft the rest of the draft. We'll just trade for that guy next year using whatever guys.
Think about it. If you could pay like $10 million a pop to make sure that prospects in your system made it to the big leagues as an effective player, you'd pay $10 million here or there. If you were to do it right, you'd pay for about 5 of them. $50 million. So if these prospects pan out, that's your team right there.
Yeah. How fucked up was Kumar Rocker's elbow though? He didn't pay him like $3 million.
I was thinking though, how nice would it have been to have him if he was healthy? Like, we'd have at least one to grow on along with Senga. Yep. Now we just have to. We are going to have Ohtani.
Some pitching prospects. We have like Vassell in AAA and a couple in AA. So
no, we don't.
Maybe those.
Not me. No, we don't.
That's where they are. That's
there
where
he
they
is.
are.
They do exist.
Clem.
I'll turn the dad voice on, and my kids will think I'm yelling at them. Kevin Francis Clancy.
Clem, we do not have pitching prospects. We do not.
I never said they're good, but they're technically prospects.
They are literally prospects the prospectus on them is not great. Get out of here.
They're the smartest Barstool bloggers, basically. Like it's not a high bar to climb. Like they're in AAA.
I'll tell you, I want to see Mike Vassell, who's in AAA right now, get some starts down the stretch instead of say Cookie Carrasco.
Yeah. You might as well throw them all out there. Maybe we do have some lightning in a bottle, but I mean, I would, Ohtani and Senga will be best buds, and
Yoshi.
And that'll carry us through to Yoshi, and then from there, it's like, hey, you want to go pitch with 3 Japanese aces? We got a couple guys who say, heck yeah, let's do it. Yep. And then you have your rotation. So, Ohtani.
Joe DeMayo coming on Thursday or Friday. Whenever we record next, we're going to have Joe on. He already said he's good. And he's going to tell us how we should feel about the new guys we got. Try to sell Kevin on a couple pitching prospects.
And do some grids.
Some grids. Also, the gang will be out at the NYPD FDNY game on August 10th, I believe it is. So probably the most competitive game that will be played at Citi Field the rest of this year.
Two best baseball teams in New York right there, FDNY and NYPD.
This makes it so much easier, too, by the way, that the Yankees just suck. And Aaron Boone saying that the offense did a good job the other day when they had 18 strikeouts. It's crazy. So come on out. We're going to watch the cops and the firemen slug it out and have some fun at the ballpark. So it'll probably be the only time you can have fun at Citi Field until Ohtani's here. So join us. You can get tickets online. Just search it for the NYPD FDNY game.
And then we'll have Barstool at the ballpark, which, hey, maybe we get some young kids up. I'm trying to think of ways to promote it. You got plenty of drinks.
I was going to say, here's how you promote it.
And then we hope maybe watch a couple kids play in the field, and maybe Mike Vassell comes up. I don't know.
Here is the tagline for Barstool the ballpark: "Get drunk and look at kids." That's Jesus Christ. That's the sell. Who's into that? Just go babysit at Citi Field.
Sponsored by no one.
Yeah, gotta believe.
Gotta.